Welcome! In this video, we're going to take a quick look at Twine Satellite, the advanced reporting tool for Twine. Of course, basic reports are already part of both Twine and EDSB, but in some environments there are more advanced or sophisticated reports that you might need, and we have written Twine Satellite specifically to meet those needs. So I'm going to log in here, and this is of course like our other components. It's a cloud app. And you'll notice that we have a couple different menus when we log in. I'm going to start on the reporting side here. And the idea with the reports is that we can both generate ad hoc reports as well as we've got access to a whole range of pre-built reports. And what we're seeing here is that we can look through the system based on all objects broken down by class, student, parent, or staff, or we can look at details for individual objects. For demonstration purposes, we'll take a look here at all classes as an example. And you'll notice that what this is doing is it's pulling all of the data that we have, both from Twine and EDSB, to kind of pull all of this together. And it allows us, for example, to come in, and if I wanted to run reports, for example, across all homeroom classes, right here, all of our homeroom classes, and we can open reports just based on however many, 9 or 10 classes here. For demonstration purposes, let me reset these filters and let's look at, I'm going to do a single class here where we've got some demonstration data. So here is an introduction to business class. And when I open the reports now, what you'll notice is that this report is filtered. Our class reports are filtered based on whatever classes we have selected. We can also, of course, save these. So if there are certain common reports that we need where we're doing a report just on our 12th grade students, for example, right? We can filter our students and save that and come back and rerun these anytime we need. Now, the reports themselves, we've got a variety of different reports. As an example of how some of these can look, one of the common uses is we have some schools where when students go out on a field trip, we need to do a class roster that includes emergency contacts. So we can come in here, we'll set the options that we want, and what the system does then, it generates a report looking at every student in this class, including all of the emergency contacts. Fairly simple, straightforward way to do this. We can, of course, export to a lot of different formats. So in addition to printing, we can, for example, dump this report out to Excel, where you'll notice we even have the ability to export everything to Excel. So if you just need to dump everything you have in EDSB and Twine right out to a database, you say export to Excel, and it gives us a multi-tabbed sheet there that includes all of our classes, students, parents, and staff, even in that one report. We also have a bunch of sort of standardized reports built in. For example, a common thing for a lot of our schools, right, is what are the upcoming birthdays, for example, right? So here is the upcoming birthday report, and it assembles that by date range, and it just gives it to us right there really easily and quickly. Picture day. If we have a photographer coming in and we need to generate a report for the photographer so that they know what are the IDs to assign on all of the files, right? Here it is, and we generate that and hand it off to the photographer. Or for those of you in Ontario, right, one of the reports that is used for example, Ontario middle schools, right, is we have to have enrollment by age and gender. And again, we can go ahead and generate that data, including a nice histogram and exactly what the Ministry of Education is looking for there. So providing a lot of flexibility and just a lot of power in terms of being able to get some data out of your EDSB and Twine environment. Another example of what we can do here is through our transcript system. And in this case, we really have designed this particularly for Ontario schools. Basic transcripting is part of the core Twine Essentials package. But in some jurisdictions, including Ontario, Canada, there are some really very specific requirements in terms of how credits are calculated and needing certain numbers of classes from different groupings, and even how that stuff gets printed out. And so, as an example here, we're going to take a look at Twine High School. And what we're seeing on the left is all the configuration for this. So for example, we can load up the system. In fact, it's already loaded with all of the different, in this example, Ontario course codes, so that we know which classes fall into which categories. There is setup here for things like equivalent credits. And this can be a big deal, right? If a student comes in from another school or you have custom courses, we need to know how all of that maps. And so it allows you to define all of the structures that let you generate a transcript. And then the cool part, the part that saves a ton of time, right, is that this is already connected up to EDSB. So when a term has ended and we've got some report cards, what we can do is we start typically by reviewing the report card data, So as an example, here we're going to go ahead and filter and just take a look at Anthony Carter. We can see that Anthony Carter has completed some classes here. It's giving us some information. This is actually his third attempt at grade 9 French, which is unusual, but that's okay. But we can choose to look at this and see how the student has done and add these records, for example, into the transcript system if all that data looks good. So that's kind of step one, is let's pull in the data, make sure that it looks right, and put that into the transcript system. At that point, we can actually work with or generate transcripts, and we can do this for individual students or in bulk. For simplicity, for the demonstration, I'll do this for an individual student, and we'll go ahead and take a look. Here's Anthony Carter. And so what it's showing us here, right, are all the different classes that he's taken, including French 3 times, and science and English and so forth. And in Ontario, again, there's a specific way that credits have to be calculated based on required credits and optional credits and so forth. So there's a function that's built right into this where I can say process credits, and it's gone ahead and looked at the different categories. We can see that we've got 3.5 compulsory and 2 optional and so forth. And once we've done this, it allows us actually then to print a transcript. And in fact, there are a couple things built in here that are pretty interesting. One, note that we can generate, for example, a credit counseling report from this, which is kind of nice. So we can sit down with an advisor and say, okay, it looks like these are the classes you're going to need and so forth. But then it also allows us to go right to the the formal Ontario transcript where we can print everything in the right alignment. We can even print a version of this without the borders, so that if you've got the official paper, you load that up into the printer, and this is what we'll actually send to that printer, and it gives everything in exactly the format that the Ontario Ministry of Education is looking for. So again, hopefully, this gives an idea of how we're able to save time and generate those custom reports. Last, I should mention, if you are in Ontario High School, this is the same tool that we're going to be using. Twine Satellite is where we're going to be working to generate all of your ONSIS reports. So in a few weeks, hopefully I'll be able to generate a new version of this video, and we'll be able to demonstrate those functions also. So hopefully this gives you, like I said, just a good idea about the reporting capabilities. If you have any questions, please do get in touch with us. Our staff are always glad to talk about what we can do. And thank you for watching. Take care.